Can I be heard?
Yes.
Oh, just to clarify, the meeting that wasn't able to contain the people who were interested last time. I tried to. I see that this meeting, the breakout, is being recorded, but I wasn't able to listen to the recording of the breakout from last week. Can you explain? This is being recorded, and this breakout will be available later, or no?
Hello, my name is Tom Quatchmani. I'm with the MBTA. To answer, I believe it was James Williamson's question. I believe they will be available on our website. Where exactly on the website, other than under the BBP umbrella, I couldn't bring you to exactly, but I believe it will be there.
Thanks. Thanks.
Again, my name's Tom. We're just going to wait a few more minutes to allow folks to determine what room they would like to be in. This room is primarily for the North Shore, going, from down from Beverly, Danvers, Salem, Nahant, down to Lynn, in that area. Those are the routes that we'll be reviewing in this room.
Okay, I thought this was this. Okay, Somerville and Cambridge are 3 then?
I don't have that list in front of me, but I believe that is correct.
Okay, sorry, I'm in the wrong room.
No problem at all.
How do I get back to the?
Yeah, so hi everyone, I'm Daniel Menichello. I also work for the T. With Tom, we're gonna wait a few more minutes to get a few more people in this room. You can leave the room, that should be an option for you. And then rejoin the main room and then rejoin the breakout room that you would like to be in if you're in here by mistake. Once again, this is covering geographically Beverly, Danvers, Lynn, Lynnfield, Marblehead, Nahant, Peabody, Salem, Saugus, and Swampscott.
And just for a check, can everybody see the slide with the Bus Network Redesign on there with all the routes listed?
Yep, looks good.
Okay, great. All right, just wait 2 more minutes, make sure everybody's in that wants to be in. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Tom Quatchmani. I'm with the MBTA with Dan Melichello here to talk about the route changes made in the Bus Network Redesign since May. In May, we came out with a map. We heard a lot of feedback from the North Shore on those proposals. And what we're here to do today is go over how we have changed that map based off of those proposals. Again, I have a slide up right now covering the communities that the routes that we'll be talking about in this break room cover. If you would like one of the other areas, again, just back out and then go into the room that you're interested in. That being said, I'd like to just move forward now and talk about how we're going to communicate tonight. Basically, everything is going to transpire through the chat window. We have people monitoring the chat, and basically they're going to tell me what's in there. And Dan and I will be trying to answer those questions. If for some reason we can't answer those questions, you'll be able to ask them in the question and answer session a little later, or send them to us in the MBTA's website, and we will try to address them there as well. Moving forward, as you saw in the main presentation, we have changed up to 85 of the 133 routes in the network that we have today. That includes changes to, creating new routes, restoration of existing routes, additions, subtractions, all that. Extensions to routes, modifications to the frequency and span of routes, particularly those that had low frequency on the weekends or no service at all. We've added service to them. So changes were made in 5 primary areas, basically to respond to public feedback received on that draft map we sent out in May. Again, to improve access to hospitals and senior centers and other destinations in particular, to reduce walk distances whenever possible for seniors and other riders in locations where there is challenging topography, and to preserve existing one-seat rides like the 354 out in Burlington, and to balance resources. I mean, we do want to, the proposal is to increase service overall by 25% throughout the system. This is really unheard of in one big move, but that is what we are trying to do here over the course of 5 years. Let's see. Here's a summary of the changes since the May proposal. Everything that's bolded, the ones that would pertain to the communities in the North Shore. For example, the 131, which goes through Melrose, the 426, the 429, and the 451. There we're restoring those routes to what they had been already from what we had proposed in May. Rerouting to better services, better serve medical facilities, in particular the 105. New routes added to the proposals, none for the North Shore, sorry. Frequency or span adjustments, the 435 in particular, is what is being changed up in the North Shore. So again, over here we have all the ones in bold that are being changed for the North Shore, so you can see that. Summary of changes, routes that did not change since the May proposal. The 436, a lot of the North Shore ones, the 439, 442, 450, and the 455. Those are staying as shown in that May map. Frequency and span adjustments, but not route changes. The routes basically are running the same course, is the 435. We are reducing the proposed frequency there, but maintaining improved frequency over existing service, particularly on Sunday. So to start looking at those routes one by one, here we have the 131, which we had wanted to put in from our origin and destination data and our cell phone data, which showed a desired line between Malden Center and Oak Grove in particular, sorry, and Lynn. But because of the feedback that we received from all the feedback, the 20,000 pieces of feedback that we did get, where we reinstated the 354, which and some other routes, to the point where the 131 has been redirected again from Malden Center to its existing route through the eastern part of Melrose, east of Main Street, to Melrose Highlands. But we still saw a strong desire line to go east-west, particularly from Woburn down to Malden. So we have taken the 131 and brought it back from Lynn and sent it over to Woburn. Well, that is what was done based off of the feedback that we had received. The next route was the 105. This may look very familiar. It's quite similar to the 430, at least in the northern end, as it goes up to Saugus and then comes down to Chiltonville and then over to Square One Mall and down through Broadway. But on the southern end, instead of continuing on Salem Street, where the 430 had a large drop off in ons and offs, we have them going over, have the now it's called the 105, heading over to Newland Street and then back to Malden Center to pull that neighborhood back to rapid transit and also allow the neighborhood in the Newland Street area access to the Square One Mall and Saugus Center. Let's see. Then we have the 426 in May. Basically is about the same, really, other than at one point we had the 426 going into the Northgate Mall because the 429 was no longer going to be going there. Since May, because of feedback again, the 429 is now going to start and end again as it does today at the Northgate Mall. And with that change in place, we're allowing the 426 to remain on Squire Road and get to Wonderland faster because the 426 demographic, the ridership data shows that they're really trying to get to Wonderland more than Northgate Mall. But at least it goes right by it. There's stops there that we're putting in place that will be available. The 429, like I said, for the May map, we wanted to be able to open up access from Lynn Central Square up to the Market Street Mall. But again, folks really just weren't interested in that as much as what the 429 does today, which starts and ends at the Northgate Mall. So we reinstated the 429 as it is today, so that it will continue to start and end in the Northgate Mall, go up to Saugus, Square One Mall, excuse me, up to North Saugus, and then back to Lynn Central Square. Another route that we heard a lot of feedback on was the 451, which today starts at the Salem commuter rail station and heads up to North Beverly. We didn't see a lot of ridership between Beverly going to the Salem Depot, which is why we had stopped the 451 in Beverly. However, given the feedback, we have reinstated it. So the 451 now will continue as it is today from North Beverly down to Salem. Now, those are the changes for the North Shore that are different from what you saw in May. We are keeping an eye on the chat. If you have questions about those changes or how comments affected or why comments affected these routes in particular, please put them into the chat, and I believe Dan will be reading them out, and he and I will try to answer them for you.
There was a question earlier about whether the session is being recorded, and it is, and it will be made available afterwards for viewing. We will provide folks with information about where you can access those links at a later point in time. Lois, there's no need to, I see your hand is up, thank you. There's no need to put your hand up. You can just find the participant that's asked a question, and please type your question out for that person.
I don't know how to use the chat.
All right, then go ahead, please.
Luis, you're on mute. Can you please unmute yourself?
Yes, I don't know how to run the computer, so it's difficult.
Go ahead and ask your question verbally then.
Okay, there doesn't seem to be any service that goes I use the 435 and it goes to the North Shore Mall, but there's nothing that goes up 114. And it seems to me if you had bus service that just followed 114, you would cover Marblehead, Salem, and it would go right up and could go right up 114. There's so many businesses and restaurants and FedEx and all kinds of things along 114, and there's no way to get there by bus or by train. And I keep asking about that.
Okay, on 114, do you mean Highland Avenue?
No, 114, it goes from, it starts in Marblehead, goes through Salem and up,
Yes.
and up, it goes towards Middleton along that busy stretch. I don't know what it's called. It's 114.
Okay, well, thank you for that
I believe it
comment.
is the line in brown there that you were just mousing over. I believe that
Is the 435 from Salem up to Danversport. It doesn't continue further on, no. Because we're trying to get to Liberty Tree Mall with the 435. We saw quite a bit of demand from Salem Center to the Liberty Street Mall. So we did maintain the 435 and added service on Sunday in particular for the 435. Let's see. The 451. Robin Forrest to
Not the 451, the 441.
oh, sorry, 441. Yes, we do know that the 441 and the 442, shared a trunk from Marblehead all the way down to Salem Street here. And Paradise Road now is without direct service. We know that it's not a easy walk from Paradise Road to Essex Street. But the ridership numbers indicated that more service on the 455 being directed down Essex Street would benefit more people going through that corridor. So the resources of the 441 were put into the 455 and the 452. Let's see, the chat is kind of light, but that's okay. And both questions so far about the 441 from Robin, and
It doesn't make sense to me to take away from the 441.
I believe you got cut off. Let's see.
It wasn't highly published that the 441 was being taken away. So I think there's a lot more riders than you think that would like to keep that route, because like I said, there's several doctor's offices along that route on Paradise Road. There's Vinnon Square and Swampscott, to go up from Paradise Road. I mean, this is going to be a large hardship for me.
I am sorry to hear that. Finnan Square was noted as a reason to take the 455 off of its existing route on Lauren Avenue here. and keep it on Paradise Road long enough to come around the Vinnen Street. That's what I've been told about this change. Does anybody have comments about any other routes on the North Shore?
Yeah, I would just advise folks, if you can find the chat person that says, ask me a question, and you could direct your questions to them and have your questions be more direct. That would be a more useful way to spend our time. I think this has gone through a public outreach process over the summer. And now we're notifying you of kind of where we are now in the fall, and it's approaching final stages, but I don't think there's been any shortage of information that's gone out to the public about the changes that have been being made.
And I have submitted the survey several times and gotten no response. And I just don't feel it's fair.
Well, I want to leave this room open for anybody else who comes in or any additional questions. There appear to be very few people in this room at the moment.
I see Lois waving her hand.
Please go ahead. We only seem to have a very few people in the room.
Okay.
So
This is just a question. I don't know whether this is in the province of the bus company, but the 435 does go up where the the medical center is, the Mass Medical Center is, and I'm just wondering if there could be some kind of shelters there at that particular bus stop, because if you're waiting for the bus there, in the summer, there's no shade, and in the winter, it's very cold and windy. And do you do that, provide those little shelters where at least you have a roof and sides to cut the wind off? Or is that a city function?
well, as it so happens, we are looking for locations where the sidewalk is wide enough so we can put in different types of shelters. Can you give me that address again, please? It was where? You're on mute, I'm afraid. Can you unmute yourself and say that again? Sorry, Luis, you're muted. Thing is, we have a program where we are trying to reach out to municipalities directly, particularly along these routes, to cite where to put new shelters, even if that means we need to take some right away and that type of thing to make sure that the bus stop is ADA compliant. So we have not looked at the 435 yet, but we will be. But this is, if you can't use the chat. Dan, did you hear where she said? Did anybody hear what she said? No.
Mass Medical Center.
Say that. Oh, good. Say that again.
The medical center.
Well, there's the Leahy Medical Center. Is that the one?
The Massachusetts Medical Center, yeah, North Shore.
North Shore Medical.
Well, it's Mass General Medical Center.
That's on Endicott Street, right near 128. It's just east of 128 on Endicott.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, that's exactly, that's great feedback for us. Thank you. The 435, I don't think is going to be changed. I know won't be changed in year one, but before we get to it, or as we're rolling out the changes in service, we have a capital program that's actively going out and trying to find these type of locations to start working with the municipalities to get shelters, benches, and receptacles, countdown signs, so they'll let you know when the bus is coming, that type of thing. So we will get that on our list.
Thank you. That would be very appreciated. I know you can't have them at every stop, but that's important. It's at the hospital there.
Sure, absolutely, absolutely. Any other comments like that? Who else do we have in this room? Is it my imagination, or is there like 6 people here all together?
That's correct.
Oh, okay, well.
I just want to say I'm not going to give up on the 441. I'm going to keep pushing to try to get it to stay because it's critical for me.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm okay with a quiet room. I need to stay in case somebody leaves another room and comes into this one with a new question. Luis and Carl. Anybody else? If you want to go to another room, find out what's happening there, that's fine, or you can stay on as well. Carl Sept, I believe you're new to this room. Are there any questions you'd like to pose in the chat for us to try to answer? I think we may have chased Carl away.
Nope, Carl's here with a hand up.
We're trying to use the chat, but there's so few people in this room. Go ahead and just go ahead audibly. Tell us what your question is, Carl.
Okay, I'm just curious about the 426 and 450 and how they're gonna be wonderlanded full time by this plan, as it were. I know that there's some people at the North Shore who aren't gonna like this change. I'm thinking that maybe you could like meet them halfway and maybe only do it during midday and like allow Haymarket service like during rush hour only or something. Just a thought.
Okay.
That's all I'm asking. It doesn't now to me. I'm just because there are some people here who don't like that idea. So yeah.
Yes, we actually did get quite a bit of pushback on turning the 426 and 450 at Wonderland. Right now, as you know, there's a ride right to Haymarket, but as soon as you start getting, through Revere and trying to get through the bridges and the tunnels and all that, the runtime just doubles. To provide better service on the 450 between Wonderland and Salem and the 426 over here. Let me grab that. One way to do that was to turn them at Wonderland so we could get more trips in between the start and end points. Serving the folks in here, we feel better. So that's why we're doing that. Plus the fact that we're hoping that the service from the Blue Line compensates for that, which brings you fairly close to Haymarket in downtown. Any thoughts on that, Dan?
No, I don't have exactly anything to add to that specifically, Tom.
Right.
But I do have a request. If you could go back to the slide deck.
Okay. One second.
There was a slide that was comparing May to the fall,
Which route?
the 105.
There we go. Yeah, okay. And the question is?
I'm waiting for it right now, but whoever wanted to look at this, if they just wanted to look at it, we can leave it on the screen. That's fine. If there's a specific question, then please ask a question person in the chat room. If I think they maybe just wanted to look at it.
Actually, my mistake. It wasn't the 105. It was the very first map that you showed in this breakout room, Tom. I've forgotten the number. That's the one. Yes, I just wanted to see that May versus fall once again. Thank you. Do you mind keeping it up for a minute or two?
No, not at all.
That's great. That's exactly what I wanted to see. Thank you very much. If no one else has any questions, Tom, would you mind just summarizing again what the theory was for that 131 in the May proposal versus this now fall revision?
Well, we did see quite a bit using our the cell phone data and our origin destination type data. We saw desire lines from the Oak Grove, Malden area over to Lynn, and so we were actually very excited about this route. But when we had to put back the 350 and no longer needed the 333, which was going to be doing quite a bit of this work here from Woburn down to Malden, we decided to, and feedback, a lot of folks wanted the 131 back the way it was. So we reverted it back, thinking that, well, folks in Malden, especially people in Malden that wanted to go to the Square One Mall, they would now have the 105, which would be going there. And basically, we wanted to maintain this connection here, going from Woburn, or this east-west connection. That was one of the things that we looked at quite a bit through this whole process, is trying to get better east-west connections rather than our radial connections, where everything just comes into Boston and you have to go all the way to Boston to then go back out. So the cell phone data, like I said, showed that people were doing that in their cars, but to make it all fit with, again, other changes that had to be made from feedback from all these comments that we got, we ended up wanting the connection between Woburn and Malden a little more than we wanted the connection between Malden and Lynn, especially with the Square One Mall being served by the 104 is kind of what it comes down. 105, sorry, is what it came down to. So it's like, there it is.
That makes complete sense. Thank you very much for that extra detail. Well said. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Can I ask my question?
Who is this? I'm sorry.
This is Lois Sargent again.
Oh, go for it.
I just wanted to know, is there a bus between Salem and the airport? There used to be a bus between there. Is that been discontinued?
Yes, that's been discontinued. From Salem, there's the 455. Let me just bring this up. We have the 450, excuse me, going down to Wonderland, which then brings you to the Blue Line stop at the airport. The 455. So the 450 and 455 still go from Salem, downtown Salem, to the Blue Line.
Yeah, but they don't go to Terminal C anymore.
Correct. That is correct.
Wow. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I see we really have, again, just 7 participants in our room. Again, I'm going to keep it open to 7:30 in case somebody jumps in from another room interested in these particular
And feel
routes.
free to jump out of our room and go to another one if you want to.
Correct.
Explore other areas of Boston. There's a room that has more coverage with Winthrop and Revere, Chelsea, Everett, Charlestown, down East Boston way. So you can leave our room and join that room and sort of eavesdrop in.
What number is that one that covers Revere?
Let me check for you. Revere. Actually, Tom, do you have, well, hold on one second, sorry. I can.
Room 1.
Excellent. I am going to look at that for some Revere things.
Yeah, room 1, is that what you said? Yep.
Thank you all very much. I might
No
come
problem.
back here before 7:30.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
All right. Okay. Luis, I see you have your hand up. It's just us, so if you want to unmute yourself and talk, that's fine. Or if somebody could unmute her for her, that'd be nice. Oh, actually, I think I can do that. No, thought I could.
No, I didn't have a question. I just didn't know how to put my hand down.
Oh, that's fine.
Sorry.
Well, thank you so much for that, Daniela. There's a list there in the chat if you want to check out the other rooms and the geographic areas they cover.
Can I ask another question? What is the radius that is covered? How far out of Boston do you have bus routes?
I'd say the northernmost is North Beverly. But as far as one continuous route that connects to now, like a one-seat ride, you mean? I guess the 137 over in Reading is a good example. But, oh, sorry, no, that only goes to Malden. The 354 from Burlington here. Let's see, there it is. There's the 134 from North Woburn. There we go, 354 goes from Burlington all the way in. And the reason I think that one survived is because we have a facility on 93 now that allows the buses to drive in the breakdown lane where it couldn't before. And it's really just helped us get those buses into Boston in a way that we haven't been able to do for many other directions from to and from Boston. I don't know the west and south very well. I know this northern section the best. Let's see here, this one, that doesn't go all the way in either.
No, because
Go ahead, yeah.
no, I keep pushing to get something going up 114. There doesn't seem to be anything that will go. Even the vehicles that they have for disabled, they'll go as far as Middleton. They don't go, they're just
Right.
a very a circle around Boston. And
Right, they'll only go a certain number of miles past regular service, is that correct? I believe.
yeah,
So,
and I just wondered, why there couldn't be a bus that went all the way up 114 since there's so much business there and all. But apparently you have limitations on what your radius is around Boston.
as far as, 114 goes up Margin Street and all that, once we get past Endicott Street, the ridership crashes. It's just very, very, very low, which is, I think, the real problem, which is why it doesn't go further. The ridership that we do see, sorry, I'm scrolling on a map you can't see. Sorry, I was on the wrong one. But up 114 here, as soon as we get past Endicott Street, it really goes down. But in this section of 114 from Salem to Liberty Tree Mall, the ridership is actually significant. And so that's why we maintain service there. Now, the ride, I think you're right. It goes a certain number of miles past regular service.
Goes to Middle.
Yeah. So here's Middleton up here. And right now we don't have service that even goes into Danvers at this point now. Middleton and Danvers, unfortunately, there just isn't ridership high enough to put a bus to and from.
I'm just surprised because Andover Street, you've got Walmart, you've got FedEx, you've got restaurants, banks, you've got auto, all the auto agencies for new and used cars are all along Andover Street. I would think they would have a high, well, they don't, I guess they don't.
And how would people cross 114? That would be suicide.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
No problem.
I just really would like the T to just look at Paradise Road. Really, just look at what's on Paradise Road. There's many doctor's offices. And the 455 is not close to a lot of these doctor's offices.
Right through here, yeah.
And also the 441 connects to Borough Street, which is right down the street from the commuter rail station in Swampscott. So if you have anyone coming from Marblehead to get to, I mean, they'll have to go to the Lynn station instead of, you know, if they wanted to get on the Swampscott. And I know the Lynn station is going to be revamped, so that's going to be a bit of a nightmare. I don't know.
Good project, that's for sure. As you know, though, the physical assets of a lot of the stations are just in tough shape. They're not ADA or they're really falling apart.
And there's never any shoveling or like, I mean, until like the day after the storm. So if there's a storm like on a Monday night, there's never any shoveling around the sidewalks of the Swampscott commuter rail station until, you know, like a day or two later. And it's always, if they shovel, then there's always tons of ice. So I have no desire to go to the commuter rail. I would rather stick with the buses. But I mean, I can't go up the hill to take the 442. I can't do it in the winter. And then not being able to get to the doctors, not being able to go shopping. It's just, you just created such a hardship for me. It'll be so bad. I mean, I don't understand taking all the buses from 441 and then making the 442 twice as often. Why couldn't you just leave the 441 and 442 going? The 442 is never, I mean, it's crowded, yes, but it's never super crowded that you need twice as many buses. That's my opinion.
So just let everybody know what I'm doing. I'm just really waiting for anybody new to our room if they have other questions or questions to ask that we haven't heard yet. I'd like to say everyone, but for the few folks that are in this room, we'll be going back to the main presentation in just a few moments. The notes that were taken in the chat will be recorded as well as the audio recording. If you have further questions or would like to ask a question again in the main group, feel free to do so. Other than that, I'd like to say thank you for coming out to joining us tonight to talk about the routes that are in your area. Our goal, of course, as you know, is to make service better, which is why we're promoting 25% more service and all that. However, we know that there have been some trade-offs that some folks will not benefit from. We are sorry for that. That being said, I'll leave you to go ahead back to the main room. My co-host and all that, please save the chat text, and in a few moments we'll head back.